Your boy's back again, fellas. This time I have my first game from another online event. This one, just one that's normally run through the forums. It's been going for quite a while. I think this is like number 19 or something. And I played in one way back in the day, like the third or something before. Maybe I did two. I don't know. I didn't do very well. I know that. Like before COVID, before online gaming was a sort of normal thing. And yeah, basically it's 3-round singles event, pretty chill environment. So because of that, I'm trying something a bit more experimental and I think weaker basically with my list. So I'll get myself out of the way so I can show y'all. Where are we? This one. Alright. So basically I have a Druid Master, an Evoc Master, with the Evoc, sorry, not Evoc Master, Evoc Adept, and he's got Crown of Autocracy. We'll come back to that. A Beast Lord with something that I'm hoping is a vaguely interesting kit, and he ambushes. So actually all my characters can ambush. A Beast Chief, BSB, with just Discipline Banner, Legion Banner, Destiny's Call. A block of Spear Mongrels that can ambush. A block of Wildhorn Herd with shields that can't. Some Chaff, a unit of 25 Longhorns with ambush and Banner of Speed. 15 Centaurs with great weapons and Banner of Speed. 6 Razor Tusk Herd. 2 units of 3 minutes with great weapons and some more Chaff. Let me bring myself back. There we are. Right. So there's nothing overly strong in the list, basically. Like I don't have the Chariot Death Star. I don't have Gore-Tax that can sometimes win a matchup. So I've kind of got Mongrels, Wildhorns, Longhorns, Centaurs, raced like 5 decent blocks. None that's sort of like able to just ram through anything the opponent brings, but all fairly reasonable combat threats. I've got the ability to ambush a lot of things. In practice, I haven't done that much of that. Usually it's just my Longhorns and the Evocation Wizard who ambush. Mainly because the Evocation Wizard allows those Longhorns to have a reroll to panic test. So if I ambush them together, it's sort of like spreading out my magic a little bit, and gives them essentially just a Banner of Discipline. I'm finding that typically I probably don't want my Beast Lord in them. One of the things that I was thinking is there might be times when I want them stubborn, and that sort of hasn't really come up in practice games or in this game. And if I wanted my Beast Lord ambushing with the Longhorns, then it would be helpful to have the Soothsayer with the Crown of Autocracy to sit in the Wildhorns who can't ambush, give them leadership 8, and also give my Razor Tusk Herd leadership 8. So that was sort of like the theory. Also that Evocation Soothsayer with Crown of Autocracy could give the Mongrels leadership 8, if they choose to ambush, even if my Beast Lord doesn't ambush. So those are sort of like the options that I've tried to build in, but in reality, it doesn't seem to be sort of playing out that way. It seems like every game I come into and I want to ambush the Evocation Wizard in the Longhorns. It honestly would probably be better to just not do that and have a Banner of Discipline on the Longhorns instead, but it's too late for those kind of changes. And then, yeah, like sometimes I'll ambush the Mongrels just depending on like what the objective is, but usually it's pretty much Druid Master, BSB, and Beast Lord all in those Wildhorns, and sort of forming a bit of a Death Star, basically. So the list basically hasn't worked the way that I hoped it would. And I guess we'll just sort of have to see what changes I could make to see if this could be I don't know, if it could be an idea in future. There was something... I think I dropped a unit of Minotaurs and I changed something else. because in like the most recent tinkering I did, I've slotted in a Centaur Chieftain Cowboy, just because I feel like having no single models, having no fast threats, or not no fast threats, but no mobile threats, is quite a limitation. So it would be nice to have something that can sort of slot into small gaps and get around the flanks and sort of harass the backlines a bit easier. I mean, ambush harasses the backlines, but I don't know. I've considered the Centaur Chieftain, and it seems like it might be a good thing to slot in, basically. Anyway, that's a long rambling way of saying that this is a bit of an experimental list. Some of the ideas I had building it aren't really showing up on the table, so I'm not really sure where it's at in terms of if that's a sort of a failed experiment. But my first round matchup was like one of the worst things that I could see across the table from this list. So, Dread Elves, he had 2 Temple Exarchs. He had a Warlock Outcast with Witchcraft, and it's an Adept, and he had the Bound Wheel Turn spell. He had an Elven Selexian Officer on an Elven Horse. He had 30 Temple Militants. He had 10 Shadow Riders, 15 Crossbows, 23 Obsidian Guard, 3 Gorgons, 3 Hunting Pat, 10 Judicators, 5 Warlock Acolytes, and 2 Bolt Throwers. So, straight up, basically those Temple Militants, I don't really have an answer to them. I think they beat all of my units. Probably even with a Druidism buff up. He's also got a Binding Scroll, so like in a crucial turn he can just stop Stone Skin and with Binding Scroll and then Dispel Regen anyway. So yeah, that's not great. Didn't have a great way to deal with them. Nor did I have a great way to deal with the Obsidian Guard. The one thing I was sort of thinking was that with my characters in the Wildhorns, if I do boost them with Druidism or even maybe just the Distracting Totem, it's quite possible that I can just win on combat res against the Obsidian Guard and probably the Temple Militants as well. I guess also depending on his spells somewhat. It really seemed like a matchup where essentially all of his stuff sort of just fights better than mine, but he also shoots better than me, and he's got some really handy, like, one, Master the War Crow for fear is a really annoying thing for Beast Herd armies that don't sort of double down on Fearless, and he, like, 2 shots at wheel turns when you've got a rule on the Warlock Outcast, basically, I think it's -2 for me to dispel the cast one, is just so damn strong, because what has as many attacks as 30 Temple Militants? Like, if you're turning it into 4-ups and 4-ups, and you've got +1 on both of those, what has as many attacks that can possibly output that unit? Yeah, I think it's the fact that Dread Elves can actually get a bound wheel turns when it's effectively a often -1 to hit, and usually, if you're using it in any smart sense, -2 to be wounded. And it's like, we can just double down on that spell and force it through because of our spell rules. So, yeah, I got pretty frustrated by that in the game, to be honest. I had to step away for like 40 minutes, so I'm pretty sure I finished talking about lists. Let's get on to the game, even if I haven't. Okay, so this was... The objective was scoring units, and the deployment was, whatever this is, Dawn Assault. Pretty much... Did I go... You know what? I can just check to see. I'm pretty sure what happened. I don't know. I think my opponent got first turn. I don't know how that eventuated. But pretty much, I was happy with him having first turn. I'm pretty sure, which is why I think he got it. But I don't know if I gave it to him, like if I dropped everything to let him go first, or what happened exactly. Man, I really don't know, because this one is after 2 people have moved. Yeah, he must have first turn. Anyway, I don't know what I'm thinking about. Okay, so basically, yes, happy to let him have first turn because I can't fight. Like, he's not that quick. It's not like a double Exalted Herald, double Feldrak Elder list where sometimes, you know, after 1 turn they'll be on you, and if you don't have an answer, you lose the game. This list was fairly slow, so I'm pretty sure, based on the position of my Centaurs, I think that he must have deployed before me. Because I had them so that the Shadow Riders couldn't like get out of Arc with a Vanguard and a March. So the reason why I was happy for him to get first turn, basically, is because I can't fight anything straight up. There's, apart from the Wildhorn Death Star-ish type thing, there's basically nothing that I can just charge unit to unit one-on-one fight and win. Maybe not basically nothing, but there's a lot that I can't. So I've sort of deployed like this, which in one way is like to try and stop him from getting around me. I also think this is kind of a bad objective for me because I've got 6 scoring units. But yeah, basically I'm trying to stop him with his fast cav from just getting around me and pressuring from multiple angles to start. And I'm kind of hoping that I can facilitate some way to break through his lines with something. Like, I'm really not trying to 20 my opponent in this game. I'm trying to not lose the objective and sort of have a couple of decisive combats where he loses stuff and I don't lose anything, and then if I don't lose stuff the rest of the game, I'll get a small win. So I think the next slide or a couple after is sort of a good example of what I'm considering. So I think here, so this is after his move and my moves, but I think before my magic. But he got wheel turns off on my Centaurs, because you can't stop it if they've got a Witchcraft Adept and an item, which is stupid. But the Thunder Pack here were like maybe a 10 on dice, but they were pretty close for my move 9 Centaurs because of the banner. And he changed things, like he changed the angles of a few things so that basically I think my overrun here now would be pretty bad because I'd kill the Thunder Pack and then overrun hit either of these, I guess from the angle, obviously these Warlock Acolytes. And then there's no way that my flank isn't still showing to these Temple Millicents who'd come in and just ruin me. There might have been a possibility for my Gargoyles to get in front and stop that, but probably not. But before he sort of corrected that in his movement, there was that opportunity that I was looking for of like, cool, if I can make that charge, get the overrun, no counter charges, I probably win both of those if I get a buff off, which next to the hill and within 18 inches of the water, pretty good odds, or even probably within 18 inches of my actual caster. So then I would be, one, with my Centaurs in a pretty scary position for him, up maybe 500 points, and that would, I guess, basically just make the game easier. The opportunity didn't end up coming about because of how he changed his movement. But that's the sort of thing that I was looking for. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just staying pretty cagey. Really annoyingly, both of my ambushes failed their 3-up rerollable ambush roll. I really would have liked at least one unit back here threatening. And if I had that, I would have like marched chaff up, and I basically, if they'd come on, I would have chaffed this block, and I would have moved up aggressively, particularly because I I could get my gargoyles to chaff sort of along here, which would mean that even if his Thunderpack charged, the positioning here, I'm pretty sure I could get it so that because of how close all his units are, his guy on horse wouldn't even be able to get in front and chaff me. So really frustrating, basically, that the ambushes didn't come on, because I would have had a really great sort of threat from front and back, and he wouldn't have been able to stop both. Mongrels against like Obsidian Guard, I think maybe is okay, just because if I have like some buff off, all of a sudden we're probably trading points or trading wounds reasonably fairly, and he's obviously way more expensive and way more important than me. So really, I would have liked something to come on, because that was one of the other reasons why I was happy to get second turn, because it meant that I would have that double-sided pressure earlier. But it wasn't to be, so I had to stay back and be kind of defensive. I did make a bit of a mistake with my Centaur positioning, or I don't know if I'd had a great option with them, but I will be letting these Shadow Riders get out of their arc, which is something that I was trying to avoid and didn't do well. So that's what happened. These guys, no, they didn't fail a charge. They just came up and were threatening. I gave my Razor Tusk Herd extra charge distance, basically to threaten kind of I mean, it's not really a great matchup against the Obsidian Guard, to be honest, but my opponent might think that it might be a bit scared of them. So maybe keeping them back a bit, but also keeping the Gorgons back a little bit. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure he got off wheel turns on these Centaurs again in his magic phase, so they then weren't able to charge the Thunderpack, who they crush them if I charge them, but as soon as wheel turns goes off, it's like, nope, I'll just lose. They might be on top of it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it went through on them, basically. This is me figuring out position. So this unit here of Gargoyles is just where his Obsidian Guard would go if they charge my dogs. It's not the perfect position, because he's still got enough stuff to block my Longhorns who came on. And then this Prince is now out, so he could actually chaff if he needed to up here. But I'm sort of doing what I can to try and figure out what I can win with here. Because I think these Wildhorns, because I've got all those characters in there who are pretty decent, and also immune to wheel turns, which is apparently super crucial. I think because of their static res, because they've got parry, and because I've got Druidism, they're actually a very reasonable chance to beat those Obsidian Guard, just because I can do a decent number of wounds to the Obsidian Guard with my characters. Like between Beast Lord, Wizard, and BSB, probably good for 6 or 7. I'm static 7, and I think he would struggle to do, that 14 wounds if I've got a decent buff up, either regen or Stone Skin. So that is actually like the one thing in my list that I think can maybe beat the Obsidian Guard. Over here, I've chaffed the Thunderpack, so I didn't have a better option with the Centaurs. The Centaurs are keeping everything in their front. There was, because of the positioning here, I could have done it better, and I made a mistake, basically, by positioning them the way they are. Because if he charges the Militants and Thunderpack, it gives him like a 10 on an overrun to get into the Centaurs, which I don't like. I don't want to be charged by Thunderpack. I also brought my Mongrels up here, basically because they're in a position there where they can threaten flank charges if these guys charge the Centaurs and we stick. Or maybe if there's... Basically, they're just something up there that has to be dealt with. I didn't have a better position for them, I don't think, because... I mean, maybe back here, but I think all this stuff is able to quickly get out of the way, and then I'm not really threatening much. And they can't fight the Gorgons. They're just going to lose that fight. So, yeah, I mean, that's where they ended up being. I don't know if it's the best spot, really, but the theory was they were going to support the Centaurs if the Centaurs stuck with anything. And then I got, so Magic Res and 4-up regen on the Centaurs. So I must have gotten a little bit lucky in my turn. Yeah, no, that's basically it. That's just magic. So a few things happened. Yeah, alright. So basically both these Temple Militants and the Thunderpack charge my Gargoyles, going for an overrun. These guys just sort of jumped in here where... What happened? Yeah, so they jumped in here where I could see him, but the Thunderpack were blocking me after their overrun. They only overran like 4 or something. But there was a... I think the positioning of both of these after they had to be like side by side, or not side by... They started off side by side, but whatever happened. My opponent, I think, didn't reform the Militants to protect them because I had, essentially, if I charged the Thunderpack, I could overrun into the flank of the Militants. So when I charged the Thunderpack, who were about here, it meant that it opened up me able to charge his Shadow Riders, which I did. So that's basically how they ended up over here. Centaurs ended up here, and the Mongrels sort of just slid across. If the Temple Militants want to go deal with them, fine. That's sort of a sacrifice that I basically just have to make because I don't have anything that can fight the Temple Militants one-on-one. So I'm sort of like, look, I'll lose that scoring unit, whatever, I guess we'll just deal with it that way. My opponent ended up not charging the Obsidian Guard at my dogs. I think he was realizing it's pretty easy to just shoot him dead. Or maybe, I don't even know if he did that. But anyway, I moved my Minotaurs out of the way because they're a scoring unit. They didn't have any value at the moment. They weren't adding anything where they were. And I don't know if we've got it in this. No. So this is sort of where he positioned his Prince. And he spent a bit of time fiddling with it. And this is maybe the kind of moment that you're like, should I have said something? I don't know. But pretty much, I was in his front, and I would only get like 3 guys or whatever if I charged him. But what he didn't realize is if I charged the Bolt Thrower, because of my wheel, it would change where my frontage was, which would take me out of his front. So my overrun is going to go into his flank, which I don't think he was anticipating. But he still had to. No, he couldn't have fled with that War Machine. So like, yeah, this is basically what he just had to be left with. He was still stopping me though from getting into the rear of the Obsidian Guard, which is pretty valuable. The Warlock Acolytes were just chaffing my big block, so I ended up charging them. And what'll happen here, basically, is the Shadow Riders will die, and then the Centaurs will get the overrun to get out of the line of sight of the Temple Militants, and over here to help. But I think my Wizard takes 2 wounds from the combat, which I think was a little bit unlucky, but not that unlucky. Yeah, that's basically it. I'll kill this Bolt Thrower and overrun to the flank here. Okay, so as you can see, yeah, everything's happened as it's happened. My dogs actually fled from a charge from the Gorgons, and the reason for that is because they were going to bounce through, and pretty much if they rolled above like a 5 or something, they would actually chaff the Temple Militants because he hadn't declared a charge with them yet. Also fled with the Razor Tusks because I didn't have a buff up. I had no hope of beating the Gorgons if I didn't have anything up. So I just fled and made them sort of fail a charge. I do have the Hereditary and the Blackwing Totem up on the Longhorns. And the main value of the Blackwing Totem there was so that when these guys inevitably countercharge, I actually strike before them. Because I'm charging still, so I'm agility 7, so they'll come in and I'll have a good chance to kill him. What actually did happen, which was pretty bad luck, but I think I would prefer to fight him. These Obsidian Guard failed their rerollable Leadership 9 panic test and fled through, and a lot of them died. I kind of maybe would have preferred them here, because I think he was going to charge my block probably, because I'm pretty sure he couldn't charge them. Anyway, they failed their panic test. They ran through and a bunch of them died, and that was a bit of bad luck for my opponent. But I think in the end, maybe was better for him than anything else. And you'll see why soon. Okay, so a lot's happened. Basically, I mean, I'll just explain it from here. Basically, I killed his prince, and I actually got lucky there, because he has like a pretty good save, but he rolled poorly enough that I was able to take him off. Because of the wheel turns and the fact that it's impossible to stop with this army, I couldn't kill these Judicators, or enough of them. So they're still there fighting. This is after a decent bit has happened, but I'm basically reformed like that to... I had a reason for it. Oh, yeah, okay, so basically if there's Obsidian Guard come in, there's fewer that are able to attack. The champion is down here, so his character will only be able to attack my champion. And it's sort of my way of basically trying to guarantee that I kill these Obsidian Guard. Spoiler alert, I don't. Unit of 10... Oh, not Obsidian Guard. Executioners. Yeah, I don't because... Can't stop wheel turns, frustratingly. I can't remember exactly how it came about, but there was an annoying... annoying sort of position reform for my opponent here. But he ended up giving a flank to my mongrels, so I took it and killed a lot of the unit. They then fled, and I didn't catch them, which was unfortunate, because that'd be like, with the character, and that's like 1,000 points. And a point on the secondary, at which point I have 4, 5. So I'm going to lose these centaurs, I'm probably going to lose these longhorns, but it'll give me 1. Is there any... I feel like I killed something. Oh, and if I kill these executioners, that's 2. It's like I'm maybe not losing the objective in this bad matchup. But I didn't get them, which is unfortunate, and they rallied, which is fine. Then I fought the Thunder Pack for a while. I don't know. Gorgons moved up basically to chaff my characters, my big block. I charged them and basically won on static res, but my Lord took 2 wounds this time. And that's basically all that matters there. And then I reformed like this. This is my fleeing wizard who rallied. He was the lone survivor of the Longhorn combat, who was about to be charged by something, probably these guys, and run away. And then these guys are going to charge my big block, which they did. And there's no more pictures, but basically all that happens here is he ends up killing both my characters because they took 2 wounds each from those earlier combats, which I think was like not super unlucky, like one of those things where maybe it was like a 30% chance to happen. But if they weren't so vulnerable, it would have been nice. But I actually keep winning combats down here. Because I did still have Evoc buffs, and I did still have totems. And I was taking him down in terms of wounds and stuff. So I was able to get the executioners, which was frustrating because with 4 of my scoring units left alive, not getting this unit meant that I was still losing the objective. And he also, on this Obsidian Guard unit, it was re-rollable. I think he had a break test on Leadership 7, then on Leadership 6, and he stuck both of them, which again, like, you know, happens. But there were just those few things in the game that was like it really could have turned. Because in the end, my opponent won the objective, because it was 2 scoring units against 1, and won 11-9 on points. But he had his general in there, or his BSB, one of the 2. I think it's BSB actually, in there on 2 wounds. So 1 more wound on him would have been, what, 520 points. So which would have been swinging back to maybe even 11-9 to me. If I'd gotten this unit, it's a drawn objective. It's 1,000 points. I win the game. If I'd gotten this unit, it's a drawn objective. It's 1,000 points. I win the game. If I'd gotten both of them, it's a big win. If my ambusher had come on early, my plan, I think, was looking quite good. But all those things that were sort of... risk is probably the wrong term, but like not... Like, I mean, Mongrel's running down Temple Militants. It's not a 50-50, because if we get equal, I win. But, like, that's so close to a 50-50 that it's like, oh, it's a coin flip that I lost. Like, yeah, it was significant, but, you know, that's a shame. But there were just those few things where I think if my ambushes had come on, the game would have been different. If I'd caught those Temple Militants, I would have won the game based on everything else happening the same. And if he'd broken with those Obsidian Guard, and I'd caught him, I would have won. If he'd only broken, I wouldn't have won the objective, so it would have been a small loss. Just all three of those crucial things going against me was sort of like, I ended up quite disappointed that the game didn't go my way when I was like, this is a bad objective for me in an awful matchup. And I just didn't get that luck at the crucial times. But if you'd said to me looking at those, if you just show me those two lists and said, if you're the Beast Herds player, would you be happy with 6 in this matchup? I would have said yes for sure. So the disappointing thing is I think that I played the game quite well. Potentially my opponent made a few mistakes that gave me opportunities that some other people wouldn't. But, like, as for instance, the charge into the Temple Militants, I don't think he had to give me his flank. I don't know why he did. I think he might have maybe missed the Mongrels being there. I'm not really sure. But, like, that's sort of the thing that there's a few things there that I'm like, you know, this list being played by the best player in the world, I wouldn't have been in a position to win it either. And I would have probably lost bigger than 14-6. But with those opportunities in the game, I was quite disappointed not to come sort of get that, not come from behind, but like underdog win basically. But regardless, the list, it's not doing what I expected or wanted it to do, because I don't really want this Death Star in the Wildhorns. But it's doing better. It did well enough in this matchup that I was quite impressed, basically, with a few more tinkers, adding things and changing things, it might be perfectly viable. The only question is if it can actually play the way that I wanted it to, because at the moment it's really not. I've just got another Death Star on the table, and this one isn't able to fight as many things as my Chariot Death Star, so... yeah, so I guess in the end, happy with the results, but there were quite a few things that could swing in that game. I should also mention, though, that in this position, when he got wheel turns up on my Centaurs, I thought that I was in a lot of trouble. I don't know if I played well enough to just get out of it, but it didn't end up being that bad. And I was sort of like, I think that my flank up here is just going to collapse. And if the Thunderpack had made that 10 overrun into my Centaurs, I would have had none of the opportunities that I ended up with in that game. So, and they would have been in a more annoying position up here. So, yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with a 6. Because reflecting on it, even though when I had those moments where I'm like, oh, it could have gone so well, this sort of board state in particular, I look at and I go, this feels like it could go really badly. So, yeah, no complaints. My next match in this tournament is against another Beast Herds list. This isn't the lists, but I don't know. Against another Beast Herds list, which is a bit annoying because I don't like playing mirrors, but he has double Gortak, which will also be a problem because I don't have any way of doing damage to them at ranged. And he kills a lot of my stuff. I think he's got a Druidism Master as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But I can't remember what he's got. I've got no idea. You'll see it when it comes up. Anyway, this video's been long enough. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.